and welcome to the 2022 W Series season, starting in Miami, presented by Hard Rock. My name is Naomi Schiff. I'm in the commentary box with Billy Monger. Billy, how are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. Miami, start of the new year. It's going to be an exciting session.
It definitely is going to be an exciting session. We're at a brand new track, so it's going to be interesting to see how this session pans out. We've got a lot of new drivers on the grid this year. What do you think of the lineup, Billy?
I think the lineup's exciting. There's a lot of new drivers, a lot of young drivers as well, which is great to see new, fresh talent coming onto the grid and how they're going to adapt to the pressure that W Series presents, because it's such a great opportunity for them, especially being here in Miami with the prestige of this new Grand Prix.
Yeah, but it's definitely a challenging circuit to be starting at. I mean, some of these drivers, of course, they've been to the pre-season test in Barcelona, but some of them, have only just come out of karts. So this will be their first real experience at a race weekend on a Formula One circuit.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be. They've been sent into the deep end, I guess you could say, when it comes to some of the experience that they haven't had of driving proper racetracks like this. And obviously the lucky thing for them is this is a brand new circuit to everyone, so that advantage that we would probably see at some other racing circuits where the drivers have got experience, they won't have that here. So they're all going to really spend this session, this practice session, just learning as much as they can. This is the session where you want to make the mistakes, you want to lock up and go that little bit deep, so you can then learn from that and be ready for qualifying.
Well, this is a special weekend for us because it's a double header. So we've got 10 races this season, 8 events, 2 events with double headers. This is one of them. So it is slightly different to a typical W Series weekend where, we do have 30 minutes practice. We're going to qualifying tomorrow, but then we've got 2 races for them to bag points.
Yeah, double header is great because it means if you make a mistake in one race, you've got that opportunity to sort of bounce back and sort of resurrect your weekend and get some good points out of it. So it's obviously qualifying dictates your position for both the races, which is again new this season. So there's been some changes to the way the series works, but it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how these cars, these Tatuus F3 chassis cars, how they adapt to the circuit, how they feel out there, and just see how the drivers can adapt and get on top of this new circuit.
So the drivers are clearly coming onto the track at the moment. Billy, we were talking about it a few minutes ago, that the liveries this year look really good, don't they?
Yeah, the cars really stand out from each other, and I mean, it makes our job a lot easier in the comms box because you can pick and identify the drivers by their liveries a lot easier here. And I think it's just all the liveries look smart, and the circuit looks smart. I mean, everything about Miami, this race this weekend, I mean, it just screams this. We're in for hopefully some great racing.
I really hope so too, and I think we will get some really good racing. If you look at the track, it looks like it's going to present a lot of challenges, potentially some interruptions. Who knows? This session might be a little bit of an indication of what that's going to be like.
Yeah, I think practice is always, like you say, there's normally going to be some mistakes made, so we'll see whether, if you make a mistake on this circuit, in some places it's so narrow, this track, particularly between turns 13 and 16. I did a track guide around here yesterday and I was really surprised by how narrow it was, the undulation, which, considering this circuit has been built for purpose and it's brand new, you'd expect it to be almost kind of a bit flat, but it really does have some character about it.
So for the viewers at home, I mean, I kind of know about this, but for the viewers at home, can you explain what that undulation and what the tight corners will present as a challenge for the drivers?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just whenever you go into a corner where there's like an uphill braking zone and then there's a sort of a crest or any element, and here we go through this section right now as we watch Bruno Tomaselli. The car goes light when you go over the crest. It's easy to put a bit too much throttle in and have a little bit of wheel spin come into play, and then obviously the drivers are going to have to deal and correct that. And quite quickly after that tight section, we've got this straight which just goes on forever. And I mean, when it comes to the racing, I think a lot of the overtakes is going to be down into turn 17 towards the end of the lap.
Well, it looks like the drivers are starting to figure their way around the track. I mean, in this day and age, we're quite lucky. We have quite good simulators. We have access to good simulators at the track as well. So the drivers do know the circuit, but it's obviously very different when you get in the car. Yeah,
when simulators are great, like you say, for learning sort of the basics and the fundamentals about driving these race cars around the track, but actually getting in the driver's seat and figuring it out for yourself when you've got G-forces and everything else that comes into play. And when the walls on a simulator, they won't feel anywhere near as tight as when you get in the car, because you know that if you make a mistake in the real car, then that can punish you.
Well, another challenge that these drivers have this weekend is it is very hot in Miami. And I actually saw Abby Pulling and Alice Powell walking around with some cool suits. So they look like they've come prepared. But, I mean, that's going to be tough as well, isn't it?
Yeah, for us Brits, this weather is, it's scorching, to be honest. I've been absolutely sweating around the paddock, and I don't know what these drivers are going to be dealing with the conditions inside the cockpit. It's going to be really tricky for them. And yeah, those cool vests, they did look good when we walked past them, didn't it? It was like, that would be nice.
I mean, I could definitely use one of those cool vests right now, and I'm not in a racing suit. So, Billy, let's talk about the fact that we also have a couple of new teams this year. I mean, the drivers have also shuffled around from existing teams, but we have the likes of Click to Drive Bristol Street Motors W Series Racing Team, which is a really long team name. And then we've got Quant Fury Racing, we've got Court Dow W Series Team. Lots of excitement around W Series at the moment.
Yeah, I think that the series is really building some big momentum, and I think Formula One has got a part in that. The fact they're on the Formula One weekends, because we know what Netflix has done for Formula One and the popularity it's bringing to the sport. We've got a little replay here of a big lock up there from...
That's slightly reminiscent of Hockenheim 2019.
Yeah, that was a big one there from Teresa Bavakova, and yeah, she's one of the new drivers. So like I said, those lockups, those mistakes, this is the session where obviously you don't want to be making them. You want to build up slowly and find that limit without going too far over it. But if you are going to do it, practice is the time to make those mistakes.
Definitely, especially when you've got 30 minutes before qualifying. But Teresa is one of the drivers this weekend who, this is her first car race. She was racing karts last year, showed a lot of promise. At the W Series preseason test, she also showed a lot of potential. But interesting fact, Emma Kymäläinen is celebrating 30 years in motorsports this year. So she's got a teammate who's extremely experienced. How's that going to play in her favor?
Well, hopefully she can just draw on Emma Kymäläinen's experience that she's got in motorsport. I mean, in W Series, obviously, we know that she's one of the top talents in the field, and she's proven that from the fact that she has won multiple races, and she has had some amazing drives that I can remember. So if I was a rookie teammate alongside a driver like that, I'd really be trying to sort of tap into their knowledge. Obviously, they're competitors at heart, so Emma Kymäläinen might not want to give away all the tips and tricks, but if you can find any little nuggets of information, then that gains you time, and it stops you from maybe making a mistake that if you didn't ask the question that you would make, then that's all valuable.
Did you ever have any teammates that shared their knowledge with you? Because, I mean, obviously in racing, your teammate typically is your biggest competitor. And in W Series, it's slightly different because the cars are obviously all the same. So it isn't really the equipment that dictates your potential. But, I mean, they're still going to want to be impressing their team owners, their sponsors. So have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, there's always sort of people to impress in motorsport, and you want to put your name out there in the best possible way. So it's just all about just trying to do your best that you can. And I mean, obviously, the less mistakes you make, the better, and sort of building on that experience. And I think with the situation that the drivers find themselves in, the fact that these cars all are identical, you know that if there is time to find and you're down the leaderboard when it comes to in practice lap times and stuff like that, you know that it's more down to you. And that, I think that's quite a powerful thing, and it's quite nice to have that own sort of ability to be aware of that and just know that, okay, I've got to get better, I've got to improve my driving and be a better all-round driver. Because I think as a racing driver and as an athlete, you always want to just improve yourself, and the better you get, the higher up the leaderboard you'll get, and you can just try and achieve what you think is possible for yourself.
And one thing I guess that's pretty good to touch on here is that actually all the data in W Series is shared amongst all the teams. So that's going to, accelerate their learning curve, I guess, when they have access to every single car and they can pretty much take information from everyone's driving. Yeah,
that's absolutely huge for the drivers, because there's so many little techniques that the likes of an Alice Power or Jamie Chadwick will be utilising to find performance, and sometimes there are techniques that are, with the driving, that suits just that individual car. And like you say, some of these other drivers, they haven't actually experienced driving these race cars specifically, even if they have had other single-seater experience, or if they haven't from other series. So it really is all about just using that information and being able to digest it. But also, you can't be too focused on what everyone else is doing. It's good to just take what you can from it, learn about brake shapes and all of the technical stuff, but you've just got to have confidence in yourself that you think that you can go out there and just improve every time.
Well, let's talk about the W Series Academy team for a moment. We've got two very young drivers in the cars this year. Juju Noda, 17, as well as Bianca Bustamante, who's 17 as well. How much do you think it'll be comforting for them to know, they've got 2 years? Being in the academy team means that, they have this year to learn, and then next year they can do it again. Nerea Marti's, graduated with flying colors. She's now on the Quan Fury team, but had, great success last year.
Yeah, I mean, that security is something which in motorsport is fairly rare to have. A lot of the time when you're coming up through the ranks, it's all about you just try to find the sponsorship and put your sort of racing plans together for that season. And then once that season ends, you're not too sure what you're going to do next. Well, being in that academy team and having that security, it will give the drivers, I think, a little bit of confidence to know that they can go out there and make those mistakes that you need to make, and that are bound to happen, but also have the confidence to know that that doesn't really concern them or matter too much. It should give them confidence, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll really do them justice. So, Billy, let's talk about this Miami Grand Prix race weekend. Hasn't it been so spectacular and unique so far?
Yeah, the facilities are mind-blowing, honestly. When I turned up, I couldn't quite believe that this hasn't been a track that's been around for 10 years. This has been purpose-built for this weekend, and I mean, just the atmosphere in the paddocks and everything like that. Everyone is so excited to be in Miami, and as a season opener for W Series, I think you could not pick a better venue. We don't know what the track's going to be like and what that challenge is going to be like for the drivers and how they're going to adapt. A little bit of oversteer
little moment
going on there for Fabian Volven, from what I could see. So yeah, the conditions out there are going to be tricky, but in terms of the atmosphere and everything about this place, the amount of fans and people that are here, there's just a real buzz around this weekend, and I think the drivers can feel that, and they want to do well.
Yeah, we had the opening ceremony on Wednesday night, and I mean, just to see the turnout there, it was great, for the W Series drivers to see, the support that's out there and the visibility that we're getting on a weekend like this.
Yeah, the visibility is huge, and yeah, everyone, unfortunately for Fabian Volven, can see the oversteer moment she had there, but she kept that nice and cool, calm, collected, all under control, and those little moments, it shows that the drivers are pushing, and it's good to see that, because this practice session, as much as 30 minutes seems like a long time, for the drivers it will fly by, and they'll be wishing they had another 30 minutes to learn everything before they go and really put everything on the line in a qualifying session.
Fabian tends to be quite the little pocket rocket, doesn't she? She's an all-or-nothing kind of driver. Actually, she's got a famous saying, which in German is Pokal oder Hospital, which translates to trophy or hospital. So
that is bold.
We had a chat a little earlier, and I said, look, take it easy, just build on it. It's 30 minutes. It's not very long. I think it works out to be 13 laps with a pit stop that they need to do in between to just adjust tire pressures. But she did say going into the session that was going to be her approach. So she's kept it on the track. She's having some moments, but like you said, you've got to feel it out, and you've got to try those things. Now she's obviously third at the moment, so it seems to be working for her.
Yeah, and obviously with these cars, the track's gonna change quite a lot through this weekend as the circuit rubbers in, and this is the first time we've seen racing cars go around this circuit, and W Series is actually going to be the first race across the whole weekend that actually goes ahead on Saturday. So I think that's quite exciting for W Series, the fact that they are going to be the first official race on this new track.
That's extremely exciting, and I'm hoping we're going to get a really exciting race. We've got 2 of them this weekend, which is going to be a lot of fun. Ted Kravitz always says to me, don't talk tires, it's very boring. But let's talk tires for a second. Ted's going to be very upset with me. Hankook, there's a moment.
Yeah, that's Alice Powell there, going through that undulating section between 13 and 16. Caught a bit of oversteer, did well to avoid the wall, because as much as you want to make mistakes, making a mistake where you end on the wall is the last thing you want to do, because that will completely cut your track time down, well, by half, because they're only halfway through this first practice session of the season. And yeah, that would not be ideal.
Yeah, it's really interesting. That's that undulation that we talked about in the middle of that chicane. But I also noticed that when she had that moment, she sort of hit the sausage curb. So I wonder if that could be something we're going to have to monitor over the weekend.
Yeah, and it's something that we're actually watching the Formula One practice session. I saw quite a few mistakes through that section of people trying to get away with using more and more curb, because the more curb you use in a sort of corner like that. Oh, we've got a spinner there. That's one of the rookies. That's Bianca
Bustamante, yes.
Yeah, so she's had a moment. She's trying to get the car going again, so hopefully she's not hit the wall there and got any real damage. Hopefully it's just a spin from what we can see so far.
I think she's trying to request them to push her back. I'm sure she's not being able to find the reverse gear there. Oh, coming in really fast there.
Yeah, she's just in a little bit of a tricky situation there, but she's obviously going through the procedures, trying to get the car started back up again and back on the road, because again, this is a situation where you don't want to lose track time as a result of making a spin, and looks like the session's been stopped there.
Yeah, this is one thing that I slightly worried about on this type of track, is it's obviously not that easy to recover cars. So in these situations, they're going to probably have to bring out something to move her from the track. So probably that's why they've stopped the session.
And we're just watching her now. So she got the car back up and running, and she's obviously going actually the wrong way around the circuit. So it looks like she's tried to actually turn the car around to get back going in the right direction, and hasn't quite got the turning circle on the vehicle, and has unfortunately just come to a stop towards the outside of the circuit there. And yeah, red flag for the minute, so hopefully when they can push her maybe backwards and get her going in the right direction, she'll be able to return to the pits and be involved in the rest of the session.
Well, let's hope that they're able to recover that car quite quickly, because the clock is ticking and the drivers really do need this valuable time on this brand new circuit, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna, if they don't get much more track running, it's obviously gonna, I guess, affect all the drivers in the same way, which is something that Bianca won't be missing out on track time when the rest of them get going. I mean, that would only be the case if she'd had an incident where she kind of hit the wall, and it looks like they've pushed her back. Hopefully she can select the first gear now and get going.
I actually did have a moment similar to this where, you know, sometimes when you spin in these cars, you sort of get stuck between two gears, and it's very hard to get the gearbox back into gear. And I think that, oh, she's managed to sort it out. Fantastic. That's great. I think we're going to get back on the road quickly now. Yeah,
hopefully as soon as she returns to the pits, the session should be back underway, and things should be sort of back up to speed. So Naomi, obviously you, like you just said there, you've obviously experienced driving these cars. What are the other challenges that you found from driving these cars, and what do you think the sort of rookies are going to sort of, the challenges they might face in the early stages of the season?
Well, I mean, the very first time I drove the car, I found the seating position to be quite interesting. The steering was actually a lot closer than I had anticipated, so you're almost activating muscles that you didn't ever really use before. So I think that's a little bit of an adjustment. And the steering, I mean, that's a talking point as well. It's quite heavy, so physically it's quite tough, especially in these kinds of conditions. I think it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I think the heat's obviously going to be another element that comes into it when it's like the physical side of things. I remember being at Budapest a few years ago when I was still competing and driving, and the heat exhaustion and sort of trying to get enough fluids in across a weekend like this can be tough sometimes, can't it?
Indeed, and that brings me back to my boring tyre chat. So I was about to ask you before we had that little moment, in these types of conditions, you know, if Fabienne did say to me her run plan was going to be 7 laps, come in, check the tyre pressures, and then go back out for a couple of laps. That's obviously going to have changed now, but you know, how much will it be affecting the tire pressures and the tire wear, this type of heat? I mean, Hancocks are typically quite a hard compound. These ones are, so that'll help them this weekend. But yeah, give me your feedback on it.
Yeah, I think from what I've seen in the sessions over the course of like last year, it seemed like actually there was a lot of circuits where the tyres sort of got better and better throughout a run. They sort of got them into a window, and it seemed like you could get more. In Formula One, the tyres are so soft that they go out warm-up procedure, and most times it's one push lap and the tyre's completely gone. And then we're just getting some news there that the session's actually going to start at 4:20, so we've just over a minute before we'll be back up and running, which again, it's good to see that as a quick turnaround, so the drivers will still be able to get some more running in.
So yes, they won't have very much time left, so let's take a look at the pecking order, because it could be slightly similar to what we'll see in qualifying tomorrow. At the moment, it's Emma Kymäläinen who's quickest. Let's talk about grip levels on this track, Billy, because this is obviously the second session ever on this track. The Formula One cars went out just before. How much grip do you think there'll be on the track? Because Emma typically does do quite well in tricky conditions, and she has really good car control.
Yeah, I think I expect the circuit to rubber in a lot before they go out for qualifying, and by the time they get to the races, again, there's going to be much more rubber down. It's the conditions, because of the heat and stuff, and the Formula One cars, the tyre compound being so soft, they're going to lay Formula One rubber down, which is going to almost make these cars stick to the circuit even more than they currently are now. So, like you say, with your knowledge and experience of sort of drivers and how they fare in certain conditions, it seems like at the minute Emma Kymäläinen's liking the conditions and the feel she's getting from the circuit so far. She's currently fastest, but you never know, that might change towards the end of the weekend.
So Bustamante is currently our quickest rookie of so far. When you started racing single-seaters, was that a big adjustment from you? I mean, how big is that step? I mean, I've done it as well, but I'm asking you because someone's got to ask the question. How big is the step from karting into cars like these?
Yeah, it is a big step. I mean, you learn the fundamentals in go-kart, and that's what it's really all about. But when it comes to driving a real racing car and having G-force to deal with, and with the aero and stuff, and how that all works, and obviously it's deceiving in some ways that the faster you go through a corner, the more the aero works and the more grip it gives you. And that adjustment took a little bit of time for me to get my head around. But I mean, this is the sort of lessons that every sort of racing driver has to go through, and W Series is providing a great opportunity to these rookie drivers to get the best amount of experience at the most amazing venues around the world alongside Formula One. I mean, it is a real opportunity to learn your craft in the best possible way.
Indeed. I mean, it is a development platform, and clearly these girls are getting the opportunity to do what they need to do to get to the next step. Fantastic, and quite, unusual actually that you have championships where your seat is fully funded. So W Series is really giving them something that is pretty much gold.
Yeah, it really is sort of like gold dust, the opportunity that W Series provides, and a lot of these drivers, they would have dreamt of racing at venues like this and being part of Formula One weekends, and that's exactly what it's given them. And the main, I guess, point around W Series is, like you say, Naomi, it's a development platform. So the hope and ambition of the series is that by introducing this championship and giving these female drivers the opportunity that they so desperately need, that one of them or two of them or however many will be able to prove that they're capable of performing at the highest possible level, and then go and show that in other racing championships, and make their way up, with the goal being Formula One, of course.
That's the dream. That's always the dream, isn't it, when you start out racing? So Billy, let's talk about, I know it's early days. We've barely made it through practice one, but any predictions for this season?
Cool, predictions straight away. This is, it always makes me nervous because they're bound to be wrong. And people will be like, I don't know, well, you said this at the start of the year. Naomi's got me on record now saying this stuff. So, I mean, to be honest, you probably can't really bet against the likes of Jamie Chadwick or Alice Powell, because last year they did stand out from the crowd. Obviously, there were the occasional race where other drivers came into the frame, like Nerea Marti, Emma Kymäläinen, Marta Garcia had a good race at Spa. So, like, there were opportunities and moments where other drivers sort of challenged them. But it's really important across this season with 10 races to be consistent. I think the consistency that Alice and Jamie have, it will probably put them in the position that the championship will be decided between them, so I think.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, what about you, Naomi? Yeah, why don't you get involved in the prediction chat?
Well, look, I think there's a lot of potential at the top. I think, last year I sort of put my money on Emma Kymäläinen because year one she obviously missed a couple of races, but still managed to bounce back really well and finish fourth in the championship. So that to me was, a really standout performance. Unfortunately, last year at the beginning of the season, she struggled quite a lot. Towards the end of the year, though, I think, she was in a better place and starting to pull together some good results. Her win in Spa has obviously helped her confidence again. So I think Emma's definitely going to be one to watch. Clearly, she's quickest now. So I don't know if I want to put my money on her 2 years in a row, but I'm really hoping that this year she'll be able to pull it together.
You were just looking at the timesheets when you said your prediction, weren't you? Oh, yep, Emma Kymäläinen's first. Yep, that's my prediction for the season.
No, genuinely, that is who I put my money on last year. But there's some other drivers that I'm really excited about. I mean, obviously, like you say, Jamie, you can't discount her. She's obviously 2-time W Series champion, so the odds are very much in her favor. But what I'd like to see this year is, Fabienne getting her first win of the season. I mean, her first win in W Series. She's shown a lot of potential. She's had a couple of podiums. She was really quick in Silverstone last year. Almost won the race, and then Alice took it away from her. So I think it would be great for her to get that. She's just gone second quickest. So clearly, I am just reading the timesheets.
Yeah, you really are just predicting the future almost, as well, for me, I think the likes of like a Jess Hawkins, I mean, she was she struggled fairly on in the season last year, but I think that with her partnership with Aston Martin, being involved with the Formula One team, those opportunities that the drivers from W Series now have, she'll be able to utilise experience from a Formula One team and the engineers, the simulator. So that's a great opportunity again for the likes of Jess to use her partnership that she's got with Aston Martin and see whether that can help her improve as a driver and make her way into the mix a bit.
Definitely, and I think, she's another driver who's been, really able to take advantage of this kind of situation and keep developing herself, and hopefully she'll come back this year and put some results together as well. Well, everyone who's joining us at home from Twitch, welcome, and thank you for watching today. If you guys have any questions you want to ask us, let us know. We'll try to answer as many as we can.
Yeah, I mean, this is an exciting session, and I'm so far the times are so close to one another. The top three separated by just over a tenth of a second. Fabienne Volvend, who was one of your picks, Naomi, she's just gone purple in the first 2 sectors of the lap, so I expect her to set the benchmark on this current run, and she's got a nice slipstream up this long back straight, so things are looking promising for her.
That pink car does look good, doesn't it? It's really standing out. Nice with her little red helmet as well. But yes, Fabienne, when I had that chat with her earlier, she did say she was going to build it up. She said, I don't care if I'm not going to be fast today, I need to be fast tomorrow. She's obviously going to come out the car with a smile on her face today, isn't she?
I always feel like when a driver says it doesn't matter about practice, I don't want to be fastest today, I want to be fastest tomorrow. You want to be fastest as a driver every time you get in a race car. So that's a little bit of a mixed signal message from her. But yep, she's just sailed fastest by over half a second. So that's a really good lap there from Fabienne Volvend.
She's obviously just found a trick, pulled a trick out of her sleeve there, hasn't she?
Yeah, especially when you look further down the order. I mean, you've got Emma Kimmerlein and Alice Powell, who are in the high 1:57s, but below that there's Jess Hawkins, Beitske Visser, Jamie Chadwick, Sarah Moore, all on 58.0s, and we've got a spinner. That's one of our rookie drivers, Naomi.
Yes, that's Emily De Huis, who's joined by Beitske Visser in the Siren Racing team. Luckily, she was quite far away from any walls there, but like you said, this is the session where they're going to be trying things, they're going to be experimenting, and these things are going to happen. We saw it a lot in Formula One as well. It's obviously a new track. You've really got to work towards the limit, and eventually, as soon as you cross it, you know, okay, next lap, rein it in a little bit, and you're on the mark. Yeah,
and that was another one of the rookies we saw going off there. That was Bavikova, who had a big lock-up at the start of the session, and it looks like that may be sort of causing her to have further lock-ups. If you flat spot the tyre early in the session, which she may have done from that huge lock-up she had, every time you get to a braking zone, it's easy for the tyre to find that point of contact and lock up. So she looks like she's struggling with her braking a little bit out there. And in single-seaters and these types of cars, the braking and the way you brake going into corners, that's the hardest bit to get right in a single seat, and is where you gain the most lap time. If you can nail the braking zone in a race car like these, the rest of the corner will follow normally.
So we've got a first question. People at home are asking about the W Series cars. Shall I tell them what they are?
Yeah, you go for it, Naomi.
So these cars are Tata's T318 cars, and they are basically F3 regional level cars. Billy, have you ever driven one of these cars?
No, I've not had the opportunity to drive these. I've driven Formula 3 cars of other sorts, but I've not driven the Tatas one before.
Okay, so more questions coming in from Twitch. People are asking about who the teams are, which drivers are in which teams. So I'm going to list them off. Firstly, we've got Jenna Racing, which has got Jamie Chadwick, reigning champion, and Chloe Chambers, who is new to W Series this year. We've now got Click to Drive Bristol Street Motors Racing as well, which is driven by Alice Powell and Jess Hawkins.
Talking about Alice Powell there, Naomi, she's just gone and popped up to the top of the leaderboard. So, I mean, yeah, those drivers that you just mentioned from Click to Street, and that's particularly Alice, she's finding her groove out there.
She definitely is, and she's wiped another smile off of Fabienne Volvend's face. But that's great to see Alice Powell up there. She obviously had a great season last year, very much in contention for the championship until the last race of the season. So going into this season to start the first practice quickest, potentially, we've got 40 seconds left. But if she comes out of the session quickest, that's really going to be putting a smile on her face, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the time in the session now, the last minute to go. We're seeing purple sectors flying on the leaderboard there. That's Fabienne Volvend now responding to what Alice has just done and finding more time in the first sector.
Maybe we've got a new rivalry coming up, Fabian versus Alice. So let me continue with the team. So that was Click to Drive Bristol Street Motors with Alice Powell and Jess Hawkins. We've then got the Puma team, which returns for the second year now, with new drivers Emma Kimilainen and Teresa Babichkova, who's new to W Series. We've also got the Quant Fury Racing W Series team, which is piloted by Nerea Marti and Belen Garcia. We've also got Court Dow W Series Racing Team, which are those bright pink cars we're looking at right now. Fabian Wolbend and Marta Garcia are the drivers for that team. Moving on to Siren Racing W Series Racing Team.
Oh, we've got a driver in the wall there. I think that's on the exit of turn 16, the last part of that sort of undulating sequence before you go down that long back straight. And yeah, that does not look good.
Yeah, that's one of the Academy cars again. I don't know which one it is. Oh, it's Juju Noda. So there's over the hill. Let's see what happens here.
And she was following Alice Powell. Oh, it looks like she actually caught the inside wall, and that then pushed her to the outside. She probably lost the steering as a result. But yeah, that's obviously not a good start to her weekend, the fact that she's had that incident. She was following Alice Power, who's topping the leaderboard, so maybe as a rookie just trying to find too much lap time, just getting a bit caught up in trying to hang on to the back of Alice Powell at the end of the session there and just making a little mistake.
Yeah, it is always good to chase a driver with that much experience, though, because she's obviously, you know, new this season. She's currently 14th and a little bit off the pace. So to be behind Alice is a quick way to learn, okay, she might be braking slightly differently, different lines. How valuable is that? Yeah,
I think it's a tool that a driver will use quite a lot in terms of, especially on a new circuit like this for them all. Alice may have found a different line in a different part of the circuit, which is able to provide her with the opportunity to gain some lap time. So I'm sure Juju there was just looking to just try and benefit her knowledge and see if she was doing anything different when it comes to the racing lines that they've picked. But it looks like it's just caught her out, and that's part of the parcel of trying to be a rookie. And sometimes you push the limit a little bit too much, and it looks like there she just has.
Well, yes, the practice session, not the season yet, it's just started, it hasn't ended yet. The practice session has just ended, sadly under a red flag, but we did run the complete session. Alice Powell is quickest, and Fabian, sadly, taking the second.
Yeah, no, it was tight on the leaderboard at the end there as well, only a 10th in it. Those two drivers that you mentioned there, Alice and Fabian, they do seem to be the top two there, a little few tenths back to Jamie Chadwick, who again, as we kind of come to expect her to be in the mix. Nerea Marti ending up fourth as well in McKinley. And so the more experienced drivers, the kind of the order that we would initially expect, really. A little bit of a mix-up in position, obviously Jamie Chadwick being the reigning champion, only being third and not top of the timing sheets. But practice, I mean, it's where you learn, and qualifying is where it counts tomorrow.
Definitely. Well, having a look at that, I would say, Billy, we are pretty damn good at predictions.
Not too bad, Naomi, I reckon. I think we did all right there.
Yes, we did. So tomorrow we've got qualifying, Billy. What do you think the drivers have to do between now and then to sort of turn this around? Let's talk about Jamie, for example. She's quite a composed driver. What will she be doing from this point until tomorrow morning?
I mean, she's going to have access to the data and stuff, so she's going to go through the normal procedure that obviously you would know about, and kind of feedbacking any sort of setup changes that she may want to her engineer, where she's struggling, having a look at the data, seeing if it's anything she's doing or if it is purely down to setup stuff that she's struggling. But the gap's not huge. It's 3 tenths. I'm sure she won't be panicking. She's got a lot of experience, and she knows obviously that, like I say, tomorrow is where it counts. She's in the mix, that's the main thing, and obviously qualifying is important to get right this weekend, the fact it being a double header, and it sets up the grid positions for race 1 and race 2.
So now we're just going to take a look at Alice Powell's fastest lap.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a couple of cool slow-mo shots of Alice there. She obviously was going a lot faster than the slow-mo shots make her looking out to be. She fastest in the session.
So this is not Alice Powell's fastest lap. This is the drivers coming into the pit lane, which, by the way, I heard that the pit lane exit is quite a tricky one. It seems to come out in a very tricky position on track.
Yeah, these are the little things, Naomi, that obviously going to a new circuit, normally when you've been to a circuit sort of 5-10 times like most of the drivers have with the European circuits, you don't have to deal with those things.
Well, that is it from our practice session today. Join us tomorrow for our qualifying session. There we have Alice Powell quickest today, Fabian Bolven second, and Jamie Chadwick rounding up the top 3 in our practice session. Continuing on, we have Nerea Marti in 4th, Emma Kimilainen in 5th. That's 5 different teams in the top 5. Top 6 actually, top 7 actually. 7 different teams in the top 7. So lots of happy team principals, I think, after that. There's a lot of potential there.
So look, just going further down the order there, we've got Abby Eaton for Scuderia W in 11th, Marta Garcia 12th, Abby Pulling in 13th. Considering her pace that she showed at the end of last year, she'll be a little bit disappointed with that. Juju Noda, Bianca Bustamante, Chloe Chambers, the home hero, Babakova, and Emily de Hughes.
Okay, so that is it from our practice session today. Make sure to join us for qualifying tomorrow morning. It will be at 9:10 local time, but make sure to head to W Series website to find out where to watch in your local region.